Merry Chrysler to all of my super sexy lemons out there. What is going on, Lemon Nation? So today is going to be a little bit of a change. You know, we're going to go back in time a little bit, and that is to the iconic New York movie Scream 6. Now, this video is kind of like a review for the movie, but it's also kind of like a, you know, reverse commentary for it, and kind of giving you a different perspective of like what this movie, you know, took out of the franchise and kind of implemented to make it its own thing. Now, Scream 2022 was the beginning of something that could have and should have been amazing, but I felt like there was less character development, it was a little bit more slow, and Scream 6 just really didn't hit those beats any more than Scream 2022 did. So this is actually why Scream 6 is my least favorite out of the entire franchise, and honestly it has to do a lot with the killers behind it. You know, I like that they kind of went down the approach of, hey, you know, this is saying like, hey, this is kind of like a similar thing to Scream 2, which we had, you know, of course, the mother of Billy Loomis, Mrs. Loomis, who was the killer in that one. So in Scream 6, the killers are Ethan, Quinn, and their father, Detective Bailey. Now, I really do like the setup and kind of how they implemented that from the previous film, but to be honest, they could have went in a totally different direction that would have made a lot more sense to me. It would have made it a lot more fun, considering the fact that, you know, you can't just take the same thing and repeat it over and over and over again. Now, with Scream 7 being in the works, of course, this movie having a, you know, empty title card at the moment, kind of like giving us a little bit more of a weary feeling for what's actually going to happen for the future of Scream 7, who the cast members will be. Will they bring back Nev Campbell to play Sidney Prescott in it, as well as adding Patrick Dempsey in it, which I think they will end up going down that route in the near future. Now, I do feel like the Ready or Not directors are honestly not ready enough for Scream 7 and what Christopher Landon is going to bring to the table for that one. I truly do think that the idea behind Scream is to create it a little bit, you know, funny comedic parts here and there, but not a little too much. So the whole New York setting behind this movie really hit the beats for me in a lot of different ways and gave us a new perspective of like how far this can actually go, and, you know, how many people are going to be, you know, behind the mask killing all these people. Would have loved to see Jason and Greg as the killers in Scream 6. I think that would have made it just so much more fun. They should have started the movie, honestly, with them arriving to New York City, and then of course Jason and Greg coming after them, and then they literally could have just made the third movie like them coming back to like get revenge on them for killing Richie and shit. To be honest, that order would have made a lot more sense, and then you wouldn't have actually had to like get too creative with that aspect of it, you know, going a little too far with the details behind, you know, who the killers could be. But that could have been a way to bring in Christina Carpenter for the actual franchise, was bringing her into the third film in, you know, still residing within the New York setting. You know, introduce basically Detective Bailey, Quinn, and Ethan in Scream 6, but then, you know, in Scream 7, they turn out to be like the killers after Jason and Greg. Basically using Jason and Greg to like their advantage in order to like get away from this whole entire toxicity of Sam, you know, being blamed as the killer and all of that, and that they basically just stop kind of coming after them, you know, right there and then. Which, to be honest, I think this is actually a different perspective we can have now, considering the fact that Melissa Barrera still hasn't signed a contract, or, you know, has given everybody in the public an actual, you know, debate of like what's actually happening between her and Spyglass Studios. So Quinn, Detective Bailey, and Ethan being the killers in this, it was obvious from the very beginning. There was a lot of signs that Detective Bailey gave off that were just really, you know, suspicious and kind of ruined the movie for me in a way. Now, I did scroll through Instagram that night before going to see the movie and accidentally saw who one of the killers was, so it was kind of like a, yeah, no-brainer that they're definitely going to be the killers, but the signs were just right there in front of your face. Even if you didn't know who the killers were before going to see the movie, you just kind of knew throughout the movie that, you know, oh, Detective Bailey is one of the killers, because he's looking at Kirby's phone in a really weird way. He's also giving off these really interesting, you know, subjective pieces of dialogue that just don't really fit in the setting, which kind of caused me to think like, okay, yeah, he's definitely one of the killers. Now, I was super pissed off at the fact that they actually chose Ethan to be one of the killers. I honestly thought that if they kept him to be like the nerdy kid at the very end of the movie who everyone thinks is going to be the killer, he's not the killer. To be honest, he couldn't take on Chad at all. You know, Chad is way too strong. You know, he's way too capable of like moving around him as fast as possible, even if he is swinging a knife at him. Quinn doing the attack on Gail, honestly, I really do think that she is incapable of moving that quickly, just like in the way she did. Of course, her strength, I feel like, isn't all there as well. Gail has gone through this so many times and honestly should have had more weapons in her house that was more easily accessible. Sure, you want to keep your weapon in a safe, but I mean, come on, man. You could have kept it in the kitchen where you literally ran to after, even though you could have easily ran around her. I think the coordination in this movie was well crafted, but it didn't really hit the beats when it came to, you know, certain points of the actual movie, you know, saying like, oh shit, like this is Ghostface, like this is a psychopath, you know. Nothing really felt different about this, even though in the trailer it literally said that I'm something different. I didn't really feel that at all throughout the entire film. Now, I do believe that honestly, if they went down a different path with who the killers would be, it would have made the movie a lot more interesting, it would have made it a lot more exciting for me, and I think that, you know, the amount of twists and turns that you can put in these Scream movies, they were just lazy at it. They were really lazy. They were focusing on the whole shrine thing, and that honestly just, you know, killed it for me. I love the shrine idea, but they should have saved that for like the third installment of the film and brought back Stu Macher as, you know, the cult leader. He's the cult leader. Like, he's been alive this entire time, running the show, collecting all of this evidence from other police officers basically committing these murders still, and no one has really seen it. There's so much more I can honestly go based off of this, guys. What did you guys think about all of this? Leave your thoughts and comments down below. Subscribe to the Lemon Nation if you haven't already. And of course, guys, I'm going to be issuing the first set of Lemons Fly hoodies that is going to be hitting my website here soon. So make sure you subscribe to the channel so you guys can stay up to date on all that lemony bullshit. But as always, guys, never forget that lemons fly.